Welcome to Succeed at Work, Money and More, Season 1, Episode 2, Work. I will be your host today. My name is Byron Tom, and let's get started. How many hours a day do you actually spend at work? And people say, well, I'm there for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I put in my 40. Well, okay, how many hours do you spend each day? And I'm going to say the answer is probably 9. You're there for 8, and then another hour for lunch, in the cafeteria, in the lunchroom, someplace. It probably takes you another hour to get ready to go to work in the morning. And then there's an hour to get to work, another hour to get home. So now we're up to 12 hours. And if you're lucky, you can sleep 8 hours. That gives you up to 20 hours a day. And chances are on the way home you're going to stop at a store and buy something, whether it's a loaf of bread or a quart of milk or light bulb or dog food. And then once you do get home, then you got to prepare the dinner, eat the dinner, clean up the kitchen. If you have a spouse, the spouse is going to want some of your time. If you have kids, the kids want some of your time. Even the dog wants some of your time. So where am I going with this? And the answer is you're lucky. You're lucky if you have just 1 hour a day to yourself. Time, a valuable and scarce commodity. And we'll get back to it. 3, 2, 1. Let me tell you about a couple of ways I managed to get some time back. The first was on commuting. So we had a house about 25 miles north of Seattle. And it was an hour, mostly freeway, each way. And I'm stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic and shoom, there goes the commuter bus in the express lane or the HOV lane. It took me a while, but okay, I finally gave up and I thought, okay, I'm going to try the bus. And it turned out pretty good. You can get a monthly pass and save yourself about 10% off of the daily ticket. So I'm on the bus, and I noticed most of the people just kind of bow their head. A few of them would try and read a paperback book or something, but the thing you didn't see hardly any of was chit-chat. And that's because you never knew who you're going to sit next to, and you didn't know that person next to you. Well, they didn't know you either. So it wasn't much in the way of chit-chat. But I brought an attaché case, and it was flat on both sides. So I could put that on my thighs, open it up, take out some paper and pencil, pen, and I could make myself a to-do list. Things that I left off, where did I leave off on those projects at work yesterday? Which ones, and then categorize them by which ones are important, or more important than the other ones. I had a scale of 1 to 5, well, 1 to 5 with the letter Q. Q was for a quickie. And quickie was pretty good. I mean, if you had a task that you could probably finish up in 15, 20 minutes, get that off your list in the beginning of the day, yeah, it felt like you accomplished something already. Okay. So I'd make a to-do list. I'd also make a list of the projects I was working on and anybody I needed to contact. If I needed information. I had 40 minutes because the trip. Well, right away I saved 20 minutes because the trip was 40 minutes and the car was an hour. So I saved 20 minutes to start with. Now the 40 minutes, I tried to be productive. If I wasn't productive, I would focus on self-improvement. I got a cassette recorder, old technology. And I bought books and tapes on Teach Yourself Spanish. So I could sit there and listen to the tape, follow along in the book. And if a big truck went by and made a lot of noise, I missed that part. With a cassette player, you can back it up 5 or 10 seconds. With a cassette player, you got to back it up to the beginning of the track. So it worked out pretty good. Like this coffee mug from the Dominican Republic. Played golf down there at a place called Teeth of the Dog. Nice place, nice course. One time I ever was required to have a caddy, a guy named Charlie. Good-eyed Charlie. I mean, you hit the ball in the tall grass, he'd jump right in and find it. But on the back nine, they had a par 3 that was about 10, 20 yards of soil, and the rest of it was missing. I think that they had cut it out, and it's on you're on an island, and you're right on the beach, and the waves would come rolling in right across. That was the fairway. Was the wave action. So you had to over the waves to get it onto the green. And I said to Charlie, I said, well, what happens if I hit the ball in the water? And he said, oh, don't worry about it. Okay, so I managed to, my partner and I, we managed to clear the water, get it on the green. So we're driving around this little inlet, and I look over, and there's got to be 6, 8, 10 guys on surfboards sitting down there waiting for golf balls. So Charlie was right. If I would have put it in the water, I'm sure it would have popped right back. Well, of course, they probably would have wanted to tip, but that's another story. Okay, so besides being on the bus and being productive, well, being productive is one thing, but that's for the benefit of the company. Self-improvement, that lasts you a lifetime. Okay, what else? The other thing was lunch. I went to lunch at 12 o'clock with everybody else. And we had a group, I don't know, it was 8 or 10 people, and we'd get a big table in the cafeteria. And so you sit around and eat and a little chit-chat. What was the chit-chat? Mostly it was about the local sports team, and you know, they lost that game last night. Well, it's all the coach's fault. Now, if I was the coach, yada, yada, yada. And you had the same conversation about company management. They didn't know what they were doing. But if I was the manager, things would be so much better, yada, yada, yada. Well, the next day we had that same conversation, and maybe the team won that night. Doesn't matter. It was the same type of conversations over and over again. So I thought, well, I'm just wasting an hour sitting here listening to this conversation. So instead of going to lunch at 12 o'clock, I pushed my lunch out to 1 o'clock. So I go to lunch at 1 o'clock, and there's nobody in the cafeteria but me. So I get my lunch, I would sit down, and I could eat and read technical manuals at the same time. So I had an hour to study, make my skills a little better each day. And I got to eat. But from 12 to 1, I was in the office by myself. If somebody came in for something critical, okay, we had somebody there to answer. I was there. But otherwise, I had an hour to be really productive because the phone didn't ring, because the people that would normally call me, they're out to lunch. And from 12 to 1, and from 1 to 2, I was out to lunch. So it worked out pretty good. Okay. Okay, that wraps up episode 2. In episode 3, we're going to start talking about coworkers.